Chapter 936, Destruction. Zhao Feng, does this ancient dimension not suppress you in any way? Zhou Su'er was already extremely suspicious, and after this battle, she became more certain. She had felt Zhao Feng's soul intent back in the Saint Herb Pavilion, and she felt that it was almost the exact same just now. It does suppress me to a certain degree, Zhao Feng replied. No matter what, the Imperial Tombs dimension was still a powerful dimension left behind from ancient times. Even though Zhao Feng had fused with some ancient aura, it's not like he lived in the ancient dream realm. He just had an acquired resistance to it. Zhao Feng was able to use about half of his overall battle power in the Imperial Tombs. On the other hand, the people that had just arrived could only use 1/20th of their full battle power. Everyone needed some time to get used to this place before they were able to use more of their battle power. The higher one's cultivation, the faster they adapted. Therefore, for a period of time, Zhao Feng would basically be invincible in the Imperial Tombs. We've arrived at the Dark Sky Inheritance. Zhao Feng and Zhou Su'er stopped. There was an underground entrance not far from them, and it had signs of people entering a very long time ago. The draconic providence in the air was a lot thicker, and the suction force of the dragon jade toward the draconic providence became stronger. Dark Sky Inheritance. This inheritance had been found a long time ago, and while it was just a low-ranked inheritance, no one had ever managed to conquer it. Zhao Feng and Zhou Su'er walked directly in, and the latter could now walk on the ground properly. The fruits and the ancient aura radiating from the green-spotted snake allowed Zhou Su'er to quickly adapt to the pressure to a certain degree. The instant the duo walked underground, Zhao Feng knew that everything around them was a dimension in between reality and illusion. They had entered the little world of the Sacred Lord before they died. Everything in front of them occasionally became bright, then dimmed at other times. Zhao Feng and Zhou Su'er had arrived in a gray dimension. There were 4 large statues in the dimension, and all of them suddenly opened their eyes as a surge of emperor-level aura spread. I need to face 4 emperors right from the beginning, and the ground seems to have a profound array drawn on it. Zhao Feng's left eye scanned over the place. These 4 emperors would indeed be slightly troublesome for the experts that had just arrived who could only use 1/20th of their strength. No wonder there were more unconquered inheritances near the edges of the Imperial Tombs. Not only were the inheritances in the center more highly ranked, and thus scarcer, but the participants would only start to move toward the center when they had adapted to the dimension and could actually use their battle power. Zhao Feng, this inheritance is slightly difficult. Are you confident that you can pass it? Zhou Su'er was a bit puzzled. She didn't really know Zhao Feng's true strength. Pass it? I'm not very confident, Zhao Feng said honestly, and Zhou Su'er nodded her head. It was indeed slightly difficult for one person, but if she helped, they might be able to succeed. However, what Zhao Feng said next made her dazed once more. But I do have the confidence to destroy it. Excitement shone in Zhao Feng's eyes. Boom. 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 The 4 statues thundered over and caused the ground to shake. Whoosh. Zhao Feng flew into the air. It's time to test my little world. Zhao Feng smiled as he circulated his intent, and a terrifying surge of power filled the air, causing it to become chaotic. Boom. Hu tilde. A dark dimension formed from destructive wind and lightning appeared in the air. One had to know that the little world of the Sacred Lord wasn't a true dimension, so if another little world appeared in it, it would become a battle for territory between the 2 sides. Boom. Boom. The air started to crackle as the ground shattered. Zhao Feng's little world was created in the ancient dream realm, so to a certain degree, it could be said that it was made from the ancient dream realm. In other words, it was almost completely unaffected by the Imperial Tombs. Wang tilde. Zhao Feng circulated his sacred lightning body and poured the true yuan of wind lightning within his crystal core dimension into the little world. The 2 little worlds started to clash with each another. Sacred lightning dominating punch. Zhao Feng flew into the air and sent a couple golden fists toward the inheritance's little world. Crack. With the combined forces of Zhao Feng's fist and little world, a giant crack appeared in the air and started to extend. Boom. 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 The gray little world instantly shattered, and the powerful sacred power created a storm as it swept over the underground. However, Zhao Feng's little world immediately merged with the air and took control of the laws and intents, blocking all of the damage outside his little world. The power isn't too bad. Zhao Feng was extremely satisfied. The little world of Sacred Lord Dark Sky had been here for too long, so its foundation was weak. There was also nothing controlling it, so it was like a dead object. It was a lot more stable than a normal Sacred Lord's little world, but it was still weak. Josua was in complete shock as she stood in Zhao Feng's little world. Winds blew, and lightning blasted across heaven and earth. The ground was filled with black wood as arcs of lightning flashed by. This was Zhao Feng's little world? Because of Zhao Feng's intent, she wasn't affected by the little world, but Josua could feel how terrifying Zhao Feng's little world was. This wasn't the little world a normal emperor should have. Above the Dark Sky Inheritance. Your Highness 11th Prince, we're almost at the Dark Sky Inheritance. An elder in grey robes was filled with excitement. Good, I'll be counting on you. The 11th Prince increased his speed. Your Highness, don't worry. A senior of the Heaven Luo clan has been there in a previous trial, and we have spent a lot of time studying it. I'm 80% confident that I will be able to solve it. The elder in grey felt proud. There was also a quasi-sacred lord expert with them. The overall strength of the 11th prince was ranked second to last, and he had no intention to become the crown prince. All he wanted to do was follow his members around and find some fortune. 11th prince, we're here. The grey-robed elder was filled with joy. The Dark Sky Inheritance was still here and hadn't been solved yet. However, suddenly... Boom. Boom. Bam tilde. The ground erupted, and a storm of sacred power started radiating a terrifying aura. A surge of terrifying lightning then blinked out after it. What a terrifying aura. Run. The elder in grey screamed. The little world of Sacred Lord Dark Sky has been destroyed. There is definitely a Sacred Lord down there. The quasi-Sacred Lord following the 11th Prince was stunned, and he immediately took the 11th Prince and ran. One had to know that any group that had a true Sacred Lord was most likely from one of the top 5 princes, and one also had to know that even Sacred Lords would be restricted in this dimension. If a Sacred Lord was still able to release such power in this dimension and destroy a little world, how strong would they be? At this moment, within the Great Khan Imperial Palace, the stone tablet filled with weird symbols and marks floated in the air, radiated a unique undulation. Around the stone tablet were 10 big white screens. At the very center of each screen was a prince. The 4th prince has already found a high-ranked inheritance. An expert in the clouds exclaimed. According to the image on the screen, the inheritance was from someone who was at the late stages of the mystic light realm at the least. Good, that black-robed person isn't with Chinner, and Chinner has gone to the inheritance I told him to go to. A powerful male within the hall of the 13th prince had a faint smile. The 6th prince is running around blindly and has met a group of beasts. Many experts laughed in their hearts. The trial to become crown prince had been around from the beginning of the Great Khan Lord dynasty, and it had a history of hundreds of millions of years. The trial to become crown prince was controlled by the Grand Imperial Hall, and apparently, the upper echelon members of the Grand Imperial Hall could affect what happened in the imperial tombs from the outside world. The pseudo-crown prince seals had been modified by the Imperials so that they could be connected to the outside world. Because of this, what happened within a certain range of the pseudo-crown prince seal could be seen in the outside world, but the images were slightly blurry. Having this ability protected the princes to a certain degree, and it allowed the forces and families waiting outside to see what was happening in the imperial tombs. The 11th prince has also found an inheritance. Someone exclaimed, and everyone looked over. However, the inheritance in the 11th prince's screen suddenly exploded, and a storm ravaged across heaven and earth, making the images even blurrier. The 11th prince and the other 2 members immediately started to run. The spectating experts around the Great Hall instantly took in a deep breath. What strength! Which Sacred Lord managed to crush the little world of an inheritance? Could it be that the source of energy of that little world ran out? No, there were obviously 2 different powers there. I saw lightning. How savage. They just destroyed the tests within the little world to take the inheritance and draconic providence. This has to be Sacred Lord 10,000 lightning from Sky Suspension Palace. Everyone exclaimed. Due to the screens, everyone understood the imperial tombs to a certain degree. The pressure of the dimension was extremely strong, so those that had just entered would be heavily suppressed, and yet this mysterious expert still managed to destroy the little world of the Sacred Lord's inheritance. Unfortunately, the 11th prince ran away in a hurry and didn't see who it was. After the little world of Sacred Lord Dark Sky was destroyed, a tomb appeared in front of Zhao Feng and Josua. The dragon jades on Zhao Feng's and Zhou Suer's bodies instantly started to suck in the draconic providence nearby. At the same time, Zhao Feng started to collect the objects that Sacred Lord Dark Sky had left behind. The wealth of an Imperial Sacred Lord is indeed different. Zhao Feng's consciousness entered the interspatial ring of Sacred Lord Dark Sky and started to smile. There's a unique flower from the ancient era? Joy appeared on Zhao Feng's face. Although this was an ancient dimension, most of the grasses and trees here were the same as the outside world. Over 100 million years, because of all the princes discovering everything, all the rare herbs became even rarer and usually only existed in some forbidden places. Let's go to the next inheritance, Zhao Feng said after collecting everything. Zhou Suer paused for a moment. She felt that everything she just experienced was a lot different from what she first imagined. There was no danger or difficulty. She didn't even need to do anything, Zhao Feng could finish everything himself. After returning to the surface, Zhao Feng suddenly leapt onto a tree, and his left eye radiated a soul power. A flying beast in the sky was just enslaved by Zhao Feng. Chapter 937, Beast Pack. After returning to the surface, the duo started heading toward the next inheritance. Right now, Zhao Feng was only heading toward the inheritances of beginning stage Sacred Lords. Destroying the little worlds would allow them to gather the draconic providence, resources, and treasure much more easily than actually undergoing the test. Zhao Feng had now destroyed 3 beginning stage Sacred Lord inheritances. Zhou Suer's dragon jade glittered with a warm light, and the outline of a dragon could be seen. This meant that the draconic providence in it was extremely plentiful. In this period of time, Zhao Feng had also robbed 3 more groups, and he didn't even give them time to use the array in their dragon jades. Zhao Feng had completely suppressed all of them and taken everything off them. This meant that Zhao Feng now had 7 dragon jades. It'll be a lot harder from now on, Zhao Feng said with a sigh. 2 days had passed in the Imperial tombs, and most of the people that had entered were used to the dimension's pressure by now and could use most of their battle power. It would be difficult for Zhao Feng to instantly suppress them now. As long as there was a slight instant, they could use the array in their dragon jades to escape, and there was nothing to be gained from offending them if he couldn't take their stuff. Boom tilde. Zhao Feng circulated his sacred lightning body and destroyed another inheritance with the help of his little world of wind lightning. The air nearby went dark as lightning hummed and created a storm that blew over everything. Let's head toward the center. Zhao Feng's left eye gazed into the distance and could see what others couldn't. The resources of beginning stage Sacred Lords couldn't satisfy Zhao Feng anymore, and there were only a few items that were useful to him. Sure, the edges are too boring. Zhou Suer agreed with him, which made Zhao Feng speechless. All she had done so far was sit on the giant snake without doing anything, so of course she would find it boring. The closer they got to the center of the Imperial tombs, the more dangerous it became. The inheritances were almost all created by early-stage Sacred Lords or even late-stage Sacred Lords, and Zhao Feng had to actually undergo the tests now. Furthermore, the beasts here had touched more draconic providence and posed some threat now. Some places were marked as forbidden areas and had a high death rate. Our target is the Imperial Sky Inheritance. This is an inheritance created by a late-stage Sacred Lord and was found by a prince in the last trial, but he didn't manage to pass through it. Zhao Feng inspected his map. Although this inheritance had only been discovered in the previous trial and went unconquered, that didn't mean it was difficult. Some inheritances were discovered a dozen trials ago and went unconquered for various reasons. The duo started their journey after they came to an agreement. They would need roughly 5 days to reach the Imperial Sky Inheritance, and Zhou Suer was responsible for picking herbs. The normal herbs within the ancient dimension were several times more effective than those of the outside world, and if they could find some herbs that were extinct in the outside world, they would be extremely valuable. Apart from rare herbs, they also met fierce beasts. Some king beasts even refused to leave despite Zhao Feng revealing his emperor aura. A pack of wind wolves. Why did you come here? Zhou Suer's expression changed as she called out. It was completely possible for them to avoid this pack of wind wolves if they wanted to. Old Ying had already marked which places had wind wolf packs. Most of them were early-stage kings, and one of them was a wolf king. Under the wolf king's leadership, the battle power of the wind wolf pack was even more terrifying. What's there to be scared of? I'm a beast tamer, Zhao Feng said. The instant they approached the pack of wind wolves, countless wind wolves surrounded them. Boom! Zhao Feng instantly circulated his sacred lightning body and released his Emperor Magnificent power in his lightning. The wolves' formation was instantly broken, and the wolves that were below the Void God realm knelt on the ground and retreated with shaking bodies. At this moment, a heart-shaking howl appeared. Wu tilde. This wolf cry was like a drug to the other wind wolves when they heard it. The wind wolves revealed the cruel and cold light in their eyes and stopped retreating. They started to slowly gather, and they completely blocked Zhao Feng's Emperor Magnificent power. If Zhao Feng revealed any flaws, they would immediately attack him. At the same moment, a gust of wind blew, and a black wolf more than a dozen meters tall appeared in front of Zhao Feng. There was a flashing red light in its eyes, and its silver-white claws were extremely sharp as they stabbed toward Zhao Feng at a speed that others wouldn't be able to react to. Mental energy spike. A cold purple crystal-like spike shot out from Zhao Feng's left eye and pierced into the Wolf King's soul. Wu tilde. The Wolf King cried out in pain. The mental energy spike had been refined, and it now contained an immortal and undying God Tribulation Lightning Eye intent. The Wolf King lost control of its body and fell to the side, but it immediately stood back up and glared fiercely at Zhao Feng with anger and unwillingness. Zhao Feng murmured. All his soul attacks now contained the damage of God Tribulation Lightning, but this Wolf King could stand back up even after being stabbed by his mental energy spike. As expected, the beasts here couldn't be measured by normal standards. Zhao Feng also felt that the intent of this Wolf King was extremely strong and refined, or else it wouldn't be able to control such a large wolf pack. He could definitely use such a beast, and it would be a great asset. No wonder each prince had a spot specifically for beast tamers in their team. However, even Grandmaster beast tamers would find it difficult to tame the beasts here. Wu tilde. The Wolf King suddenly howled at the sky, and the nearby wind wolves turned into black figures that charged over without hesitation. Humph! Zhao Feng snickered coldly as he spread his little world of wind lightning and merged it into the air. The sky went dark as wind and lightning intertwined with one another. The speed and power of all the wind wolves within Zhao Feng's little world decreased. Those that got within a certain range of Zhao Feng would be hit by the power of wind lightning. Wind lightning eye flame. Zhao Feng condensed his eye bloodline power and released a surge of fire. Boom! A half-transparent dark purple eye flame with the destructive power of God Tribulation Lightning whistled through the air and exploded on the Wolf King's head. Plop! The Wolf King fell once again. The wind lightning eye flame affected both the physical and soul dimensions and had a burning effect. Its power was terrifying, especially when it was used in conjunction with the God Tribulation Lightning. Dark Heart Seal. While the Wolf King was struggling, Zhao Feng circulated his eye intent and slowly imprinted the Dark Heart Seal into the Wolf King's soul. Who? Zhao Feng took back his little world of wind lightning. At this moment, the Wolf King stood obediently next to Zhao Feng, and the wind wolves stopped their attacks. Controlling the Wolf King was the same as controlling all of the wind wolves. Zhao Feng picked up the Dragon Jade, and all the draconic providence within the Wolf King's body entered the Dragon Jade. At the same time, the draconic providence of every wind wolf slowly gathered toward him as well. The beasts here also had draconic providence, but since there were so many and they were all very fierce, most people wouldn't try to gather draconic providence by hunting beasts. They would usually just focus on inheritances. However, Zhao Feng didn't really require any time or effort. As long as he enslaved the Wolf King, he could obtain the draconic providence of every wind wolf, and the total amount of draconic providence from the pack was close to the draconic providence from the inheritance of a beginning stage sacred lord. At the same instant, Zhao Feng just obtained more battle power. The Wolf King was a Void God Realm Emperor and could threaten unrivaled emperors with its wolf pack. Who? Zhao Feng waved his left hand, and all the wind wolves entered the misty spatial world. Zhou Su'er watched the entire process in shock. She finally witnessed Zhao Feng's beast-taming abilities. Such a young Grandmaster beast-tamer and such skill made one click their tongue. Even the most famous Grandmaster beast-tamers in the Lord Dynasty wouldn't be able to tame an Emperor-level Wolf King so easily. The beasts within this ancient dimension were fierce and deadly. They couldn't be compared to normal beasts. Zhou Su'er revealed a smile. Zhao Feng, I want to change steeds, Zhou Su'er's soft voice suddenly sounded. Zhao Feng looked at Zhou Su'er and summoned the Wolf King. The Wolf King was extremely unwilling, but it finally let Zhou Su'er ride on it. Zhao Feng felt that this was better. It's not like they could feign weakness anyway, since that would only make people more suspicious of them. Over the next 5 days, Zhao Feng headed toward various nearby beast hordes while evading other cultivators. The results were good. Zhao Feng managed to enslave 2 more groups of beasts, a group of red-faced ice snakes and a group of black venom scorpions. As long as he enslaved the leaders of the beasts, Zhao Feng would be able to control the entire group of beasts and obtain all their draconic providence. However, not every beast group was the same. When the strongest expert of a certain group lost, the remaining beasts all ran away, and Zhao Feng just gave up on them. Apart from those 2 beast groups, Zhao Feng also enslaved 2 strong individual beasts. Josuer witnessed all of this and was numb to it by now. She started to think about what the outcome would be if someone offended Zhao Feng. Imperial Sky Inheritance. The 2 stopped and looked at the magnificent palace. This magnificent palace was a little world. This was the first time Zhao Feng had seen a little world in the shape of a building. He could hear people speaking and fighting within it. This meant that many people were already here. The technique of a sacred lord at the late stages of the mystic light realm is indeed different. Zhao Feng gave a faint smile. The 2 were just about to enter when they heard a voice behind them. Zhao Feng? Zhao Feng turned around and saw 2 purple-haired males and a muscular male in black clothes slowly walk over. The 2 purple-haired males had eyes full of faint purple stars, almost as if they could charm anyone. They inspected Zhao Feng closely. The one that had called out Zhao Feng's name was one of the purple-haired males, and his purple hair was cut short. You can leave. The Imperial Sky Inheritance is ours. The other purple-haired male had slightly longer hair, and he revealed a playful smile as a light flashed through his purple eyes. The purple-haired male with short hair looked at the Wolf King that Josuer was sitting on with interest. The muscular male walked over slowly behind the 2 of them, and his powerful aura made the black hair of the Wolf King stand on end, and it instinctively retreated. The muscular male glanced at Zhao Feng and Josuer before walking straight toward the Imperial Sky Inheritance. He completely ignored them. Chapter 938, Opening the Way. Zhao Feng remembered all of the members present during the fights for the positions. The 2 purple-haired middle-aged people were geniuses of the Ji family from an older generation, while the muscular male in black clothes was a sacred lord from the Cow family. None of these 3 had to defend their positions. Wait for me here. If there's any danger, just use the array in the Dragon Jade, Zhao Feng ordered as he looked at the 3 slowly heading into the Imperial Sky Inheritance. You're really going to go? Josuer was worried. Was just thinking about what would happen if someone offended Zhao Feng, but she was starting to regret it. The Cow family and the Ji family were both members of the 8 big families, and they supported the 4th-ranked 8th prince. The purple-haired male with short hair was a famous Grand Master Beast Tamer, Ji Bei, while the muscular male in black clothes was Cao Zhang, also known as Sacred Lord 100 Refined. Apparently, he had cultivated and refined 100 peak earth grey techniques to the maximum, and he was a peerless prodigy of the Cow family's older generation. Their group had a Grand Master Beast Tamer with the powerful Purple Star Eyes bloodline, and they also had the terrifying battle power of Sacred Lord 100 Refined. While Zhao Feng might be outstanding in every aspect and easily surpassed unrivaled emperors, he was certainly not a match for such a combination. Josuer started to regret choosing to be a healer. Zhao Feng gave a simple reply and didn't give an explanation. Seeing Zhao Feng acting so calm, Josuer thought that she might be underestimating him. Within the inheritance, Ji Bei laughed coldly. Ji Dengshan, that brat has come in on his own. That's good. I will defeat him with my purple star eyes. Ji Dengshan had a proud expression and cold eyes. The Ji family had originally joined the 9th prince, but after Sacred Lord Star Demon learned that Zhao Feng was a member of the 9th prince's team, they immediately left and joined the 8th prince's faction. The reason he did this was because your eye bloodline techniques are no match for Zhao Feng, so you definitely won't be able to get the spot. The younger disciples of the Ji family spent all day talking about Zhao Feng's mysterious eye bloodline techniques. I will let that brat learn how terrifying the purple star eyes are and that the Ji family is the family with the strongest eye bloodlines. Ever since Ji Dengshan started cultivating, he had never lost against an eye bloodline outside the Ji family. He would never admit that his eye bloodline techniques weren't a match for a late-stage King Jr. I heard that Zhao Feng joined the Crown Prince trial with the position of Beast Tamer. Excitement flashed through Ji Bei's eyes. Stop talking about useless stuff. He's just a king-level junior. Sacred Lord 100 Refined, who was at the front, snickered coldly. Sacred Lord 100 Refined, you might not know about this, but Zhao Feng has a cloud silkworm saint butterfly. Ji Bei gave a wicked smile. Oh? Sacred Lord 100 Refined's footsteps stopped, and his eyebrows furrowed. It was obvious that even sacred lords weren't able to resist the temptation of the cloud silkworm saint butterfly. But he shouldn't have used the array in his dragon jade yet, so if we take action hastily, it will ruin our chance, Ji Bei continued. Their voices had faded. It was obvious that they were now talking with their divine sense. While the shape of the Imperial Sky Inheritance was a palace, after they entered, there was an old wide path. This old wide path was covered in sand, and it was extremely long. No one could see where it ended or where it led. In the depths of this pathway. Boom. Bam. 6 experts were fighting against countless human-shaped sandstone monsters. There were more and more sandstone monsters in front of them in a never-ending horde. Shui Yuan, I can't do it anymore. Who knows how much further this path goes? A short emperor who had expended a lot of true yuan spoke in a low tone. It is indeed not enough with just 2 groups. Shui Yuan looked at the members of the 12th Prince's group. Their situation wasn't much better. They had been fighting with these sandstone monsters ever since they entered the Imperial Sky Inheritance, and while these monsters only had the strength of a half-step king, everyone's strength was currently suppressed in this ancient dimension. The path here had been extremely difficult. They had slain 600 or 700 sandstone monsters at the least, but the path ahead of them was still pitch black. They could only see countless sandstone monsters. Another group has arrived. Someone exclaimed. They're members of the 8th Prince's group. The Cow and Qi families. It's Sacred Lord 100 Refined from the Cow family. Hold on. The group from the Cow and Qi families are coming. We will definitely be able to break through now, Shui Yuan encouraged the short emperor next to him as excitement shone in his eyes. With the help of a Sacred Lord, they would be able to easily kill these monsters. Who tilde? Sacred Lord 100 Refined was like a black meteor as he summoned a storm and crashed into several dozen sandstone monsters. The pressure of a Sacred Lord was unleashed and swept across the place like a tornado. Boom. 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 Countless sandstone monsters cried out as their bodies crumbled and turned into sand. All of you, leave the Imperial Sky Inheritance. Sacred Lord 100 Refined turned around and looked at the 6 people. His voice was cold and forceful. The supreme aura of a Sacred Lord made the 6 emperors unable to stand or breathe properly. If you stay here, we might accidentally kill you. Ji Bei slowly walked over, and his wicked laughter resounded throughout the pathway. He waved his hands, and countless dark green snakes appeared. They had scaly armor that glittered with a cold light. You. Shui Yuan was filled with anger. They had spent a lot of time and effort to reach this place. None of them were willing to leave the Imperial Sky Inheritance just like that, but they were all extremely tired from the battle. Even if we're at their full strength, these 6 wouldn't be a match for the Cow and Qi families. The difference between their groups and the groups of the top 5 princes was just too big. Let's go. Shui Yuan harumphed coldly and left with the other 2 members of his group. The other group could only give up as well. There were a lot of inheritances in the Imperial tombs, and they had plenty of chances elsewhere. Shui Yuan, which inheritance are we going to next? An elder in white robes asked with a faint smile. Although these 2 groups weren't behind the same prince, they had reached this place together, and they felt a certain bond after being kicked out together by the 8th Prince's group. Let's go to a smaller inheritance. We won't get any share from a big inheritance. Shui Yuan sighed. They felt helpless against the members of the top 5 princes. The foundation and strength of the 8 big families weren't something normal 3-star powers could compare to. There's someone in front of us, someone said with surprise. A youth with golden hair and a golden eye slowly walked over. Hand over 2 dragon jades and I'll let you guys go. Zhao Feng revealed a smile as he stood in the middle of their path like a bandit. What? The 6 were slightly dazed as they recognized Zhao Feng, and they made sure that their ears were functioning properly. All of them knew a bit about Zhao Feng. The beast tamer on the 9th Prince's team apparently had a spiritual pet with a bloodline of the 10,000 ancient races, but a mere late-stage void god realm beast tamer robbing 6 emperors would make many people laugh to death. Zhao Feng, hand over the cloud silkworm saint butterfly or immediately use the array in your dragon jade and leave. Shui Yuan's eyes were cold as he walked forward. After being kicked out by the experts of the Cao and Ji families, he was filled with anger and had nowhere to unleash it, but an ignorant junior suddenly arrived. Hearing that, the other 5 revealed playful smiles as they walked over as well. "Looks like you're not going to give me the dragon jades then." Zhao Feng's golden eye scanned over the 6, and their hearts shook. The eye seemed to be able to look through everything. Shui Yuan's eyebrows furrowed. He felt like something was amiss, but he was frustrated at the same time. "Zhao Feng, you're courting death." An emperor with a short temper cursed and was about to attack. "Humph, sacred lightning body." Zhao Feng stepped forward, and his body became taller. A golden blue light radiated from his body as he seemed to turn into a miniature golden giant. At the same time, a barrier of lightning condensed around the surface of his body. Lightning flashed and wind howled. The emperor's palm landed on Zhao Feng's barrier of lightning, but his attack was completely dissolved. At the same time, a strong repelling force and countless bolts of lightning pushed him back a dozen meters and made him cough out a mouthful of blood. He fell to the ground and looked at Zhao Feng in fear. Under the pressure of Zhao Feng's sacred lightning body, the other 5 felt as if they had been hit by a hammer, and their blood started to boil. A numbing sensation coursed through their bodies. What a strong body! He managed to ignore the attack of an emperor and even counterattack. This momentum and aura are close to a sacred lord. How is this possible? He's only a late-stage king. How is he able to unleash such battle power when he's being suppressed by the ancient dimension? Everyone was shocked and puzzled. The feeling Zhao Feng gave them was the exact same as Sacred Lord 100 refined. They felt helpless and could only do what he said. Shui Yuan was completely shocked as he looked at the calm Zhao Feng. In the information he had received, it said that Zhao Feng's physical defense was extremely strong, but he didn't expect it to be this strong. On top of that, there were rumors that Zhao Feng specialized in Soli bloodline techniques, and he definitely had spiritual pets that specialized in fighting for him as well if he was able to enter this place with the position of beast tamer. "We're willing to hand over 1 dragon jade," Shui Yuan said through gritted teeth. 1 dragon jade wasn't really a big deal for them. The prince they supported had no intention of becoming the crown prince, so there wasn't much point in collecting dragon providence. It was better to just give away 1 jade since it would be a waste for their entire group to use their life-saving technique right now. Shui Yuan took a dragon jade from another member and handed it to Zhao Feng. The elder in white walked over to the emperor that Zhao Feng had sent flying, took the dragon jade from him, and gave it to Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng took the dragon jades, then headed forward without bothering them. "I can only blackmail them now." Zhao Feng sighed. Everyone was starting to get used to this place. The 6 emperors just now could use 30% of their full battle power. The path in this inheritance is extremely long. I'll let them open the way for me. A gold light flashed through Zhao Feng's left eye as he looked into the distance and continued to walk forward at a leisurely pace. Within the depths of the old pathway, Sacred Lord 100 Refined was like a black tornado that shredded every sandstone monster wherever he went. Blazing Sky Force Punch. Sky Silk Shadowless Step. Golden Kun Finger. Boom. 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 The 3 advanced forward very quickly and only left a trail of yellow sand behind. "Will that brat come?" Ji Dengshan stopped and turned around. "He's coming, but he's following at a very slow speed. From the looks of it, he wants us to open the way for him while he does nothing," Ji Bei said with an evil smile after carefully sensing around. He, as long as he comes, he can take anything he wants. If he has the ability to do so." Ji Dengshan laughed coldly. Chapter 939, Lightning Quick Attacks. "Old Ying, we've already conquered 2 inheritances now." The 9th prince was slightly excited. The pseudo-crown prince seal in his hands gave off a white and gold glow of light, and it had the faint outline of a dragon on it. They hadn't met any beast packs or anyone other cultivators in the process. With the help of Old Ying's information and analysis, they were able to conquer the inheritances very easily. Jinkai watched Old Ying's performance and completely looked up to him. Jinkai felt like, if he was a bit stronger, their speed would have been even faster, so he kept using his draconic providence to increase his strength in their spare time. "I wonder how the other 2 groups are doing?" Jinkai was slightly worried. After all, his group had Old Ying, who was an experienced and strong senior who knew a lot of information, but the others didn't. "Shanqi's group might have even gained even more," Old Ying said. Those that cultivated the Tao of Destiny weren't to be underestimated, and Shen Shizua also knew a lot about mechanisms. Su Qingling and Shi Yulai were also very suitable for conquering inheritances, and the chance of meeting other people in random unpopular inheritances was quite low. Therefore, Shen Shizu's group should be the safest. On the other hand, even though Old Ying had received some information and heard some stories about Zhao Feng from the Ninth Prince and believed in his abilities, he still couldn't see through Zhao Feng. I think that Zhao Feng probably hasn't gone to any inheritances and has most likely gone to tame beasts. This will increase his battle power, and he'll obtain some draconic providence at the same time, Jing Kai said after thinking for a moment. The group that he thought the worst of was obviously Zhao Feng and Zhou Suer. If that's the case, that would be good because a large number of beasts will be useful for the next stage. The key point was whether or not Zhao Feng would actually do that. They had troubled him by handing over Zhou Suer to him, who was useless at this stage of the trial. Old Ying revealed a rare smile. At least for now, no one had used the Dragon Jade's safety feature. This was the best situation that he could have hoped for. As long as they treaded carefully, the Ninth Prince had a little hope. Within the Imperial Sky Inheritance, Zhao Feng casually walked forward while inspecting his surroundings with his left eye. This inheritance's little world was a lot different than the little world of a beginning stage Sacred Lord's inheritance. Everything here gave off a very realistic feeling, and Zhao Feng had already traveled a few miles into it and was still within the little world. There might be a couple dozen or even a couple hundred miles more ahead of him. This meant that Sacred Lord Imperial Sky had fused some profound space laws into his little world. Unfortunately, Zhao Feng knew nothing about space laws. Their speed has slowed down. Zhao Feng's left eye looked at the situation of the three ahead of him. The human-shaped sandstone monsters were bigger now, and they were early-stage kings instead of half-step kings. There's someone here. Zhao Feng's expression changed. His left eye saw 4 figures at the entrance of the Imperial Sky Inheritance. Due to the laws of the little world, Zhao Feng's left eye wasn't able to see who it was, but if there were 4 people in one group, they must be supporters of a prince that had a lot of slots, one of the top 5. If this group was also part of the 8th prince's team, then it would be over for him. In that case, I'll just finish off the 3 in front. Zhao Feng had a decisive gaze. He really wanted the inheritance of this late-stage mystic light realm Sacred Lord, and he shouldn't be far from the end. A pair of scarlet lightning wings several yards wide formed behind Zhao Feng's back and instantly increased his speed. He turned into a ball of red light and flashed forward. Boom. 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 Blazing Sun Force Punch. Rampant Imperial Finger. Sacred Lord 100 Refined was the main force while Ji Dengshan and Ji Bei supported him. The 3 pushed forward extremely quickly, but the further they got, the stronger these sandstone monsters became. After expending a lot of energy, their progress started to slow down as well. Looks like we underestimated this inheritance, Ji Bei said with furrowed eyebrows. He had lost 10% of the spiritual pets he had prepared in the outside world, and it was hard to tame the beasts native to this dimension. Without the help of an expert, the success rate of taming was even lower. However, if they did that, it would waste everyone's time, so Sacred Lord 100 Refined's group set their eyes on the inheritances. There's nothing I can do. After all, we don't specialize in physical attacks, Ji Dengshan said helplessly. He was the most useless here. If the 2 of them specialized in physical combat, then they might have already conquered this inheritance. Luckily, Sacred Lord 100 Refined had such great battle power, he was like a black tornado that caused sand to scatter everywhere wherever he passed. Behind us? Ji Bei sensed something and turned around. A scarlet-red streak of light was flying over at extreme speed. Zhao Feng? So fast. How is this possible? Ji Bei's expression faltered. Zhao Feng's current speed was even faster than Sacred Lord 100 Refined. Zhao Feng's coming. Senior Count Zhang, let's act as planned, Ji Dengshan messaged. Zhao Feng, you. Ji Bei was about to greet Zhao Feng, but he felt that something was off. Zhao Feng was approaching at an extremely fast speed, and he wasn't slowing down at all. The true yuan undulation radiating from him meant that he was going to attack. What was going on? Ji Bei paused for a moment. Zhao Feng was going to attack them? What the heck was going on? This was completely different from his plan. Where did Zhao Feng find the courage to attack them? Their original plan was completely foiled, and they didn't know what to do. Jibei instinctively reacted and controlled some of the jade-green pythons to attack Zhao Feng. "Zhao Feng, what is the meaning of this?" Jibei roared. "Hee hee." Zhao Feng revealed a cold smile. "Sacred lightning body." Zhao Feng's body grew taller, and he released gold and blue arcs of lightning as he turned into a ball of giant golden lightning and charged at Jibei. The jade-green pythons on the ground were completely suppressed by Zhao Feng's sacred lightning body before they were even able to get close, and they were unable to move. How is this possible? Jibei's face was filled with shock. He had spent a lot of time and money to find and buy these jade-green pythons. Each one of them was a rare late-stage king beast that had a tough body, but they weren't even able to approach Zhao Feng. All of this happened within 2 breaths. Jibei quickly opened a spiritual pet bag as Zhao Feng approached. Boom. A large mountain monster landed in the center of the pathway and completely blocked the path between Zhao Feng and Jibei. Part of this mountain monster's body was crystal-like. It was obviously a mutated beast. The mountain monster put its hands together and thrust out toward Zhao Feng. Sacred lightning dominating punch. Zhao Feng unleashed bolts of golden lightning that hammered onto the mountain monster like giant metal rods. Boom. Bam. The mountain monster's hands were completely shattered by Zhao Feng. Who tilde? Zhao Feng once again formed a punch and aimed it at the mountain monster's head. Several beams of light formed the shape of a fist and shot upward. At the same time, Zhao Feng circulated his sacred lightning body and transformed into a surge of scarlet and white lightning that charged forward. Boom. Jibei thought that the mountain monster would definitely be able to kill Zhao Feng, but the next instant, the mountain monster's head exploded, and a bolt of scarlet gold lightning shot toward him. The powerful physical pressure and lightning made Jibei's face go white before the bolt even arrived. A feeling of death that he had never felt before instantly spread throughout Jibei's body and made him lose the ability to move. "Junior, you're too arrogant," Sacred Lord 100 Refine's deep voice sounded. Sacred Lord 100 Refine was going to follow Jibei's plan and ignore Zhao Feng, but Zhao Feng decided to come to them instead. He was also dazed by this. After all, they had already planned how to take Zhao Feng's Cloud Silkworm Saint Butterfly, and they couldn't give Zhao Feng the chance to use the Dragon Jade and run away. Although he didn't know what was going on with Jibei, he had to stop it. Who? Sacred Lord 100 Refine moved in a unique manner and became a streak of black light that instantly arrived next to Jibei. Blazing Sky Force Punch. A fist ablaze with black flames shot out, and it contained the power to split heaven and earth. Sacred Lightning Protection. A barrier of wind lightning and sacred lightning body force formed around Zhao Feng's body. The howl of wind and the hum of lightning could be heard. Boom. Wang tilde. The flaming fist hit Zhao Feng's body, but it was blocked by the barrier and caused lightning to crackle. Bang tilde crack. The barrier of lightning released a brilliant flash that pushed the blazing fist aside. Zhao Feng estimated that the Sacred Lord 100 Refine could currently use 40% of his full strength, so Zhao Feng's sacred lightning body and defensive secret techniques were more than enough to block this move. What? This junior? Sacred Lord 100 Refine's expression changed. Zhao Feng had cultivated a powerful defensive secret technique that merged his physical force and lightning together, and it actually managed to block his attack. How was this possible? The skill of a Sacred Lord had been blocked by a junior at the Void God Realm? Purple Star Illusion Domain. The eyes of Ji Dangshan, who was currently behind Jibei, blinked with a dreamy purple haze, and a surge of powerful soul intent shot toward Zhao Feng. In an instant, tall purple walls started to appear around Zhao Feng. The sky went dark, and an evil purple moon floated in the air as purple mist surrounded the area. However, Zhao Feng's eyes seemed to see through everything, and he simply charged at the wall ahead of him without reducing speed. Boom. The purple wall crumbled, and a large building appeared before Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng gave a faint smile. Ji Dangshan must have lost his mind trying to cast an illusion on him. While others might have only seen this thing as a building, Zhao Feng's left eye could see that it was actually Jibei. Who tilde boom? Zhao Feng charged over with a flash of lightning. Seeing Zhao Feng's faint smile and how he was still charging over, Jibei instantly started to circulate his true yuan. Wang tilde. A profound array within the Dragon Jade started to expand. A layer of draconic providence covered Jibei's body, and he disappeared with a flash. Do you want to leave by yourself, or do you want me to send you there? After missing his attack, Zhao Feng floated in the air and smiled faintly toward Ji Dangshan. At this moment, Ji Dengshan was still in shock. He didn't understand why his illusion was completely useless on Zhao Feng. How was it possible? Zhao Feng was definitely in the illusion, but he had seen through everything. Zhao Feng, you've angered me. I will personally send you to your grave. Sacred Lord Hundred Refined had an enraged expression, and killing intent appeared in his eyes. Chapter 940, Close Combat. Zhao Feng, you've angered me. I will personally send you to your grave. Sacred Lord Hundred Refined had an enraged expression, and killing intent appeared in his eyes. Even though he had tried to stop Zhao Feng, Ji Bei still had to use the Dragon Jade to escape. Furthermore, his opponent was just a junior who was still at the Void God Realm. No Sacred Lord would be able to withstand this kind of humiliation. Even if Zhao Feng used the array in his Dragon Jade to escape at this point, Sacred Lord Hundred Refine would chase after him until he killed Zhao Feng in order to wash away the shame. At this moment, Ji Dengshan almost recovered, and he started to panic. Do you want to leave by yourself, or do you want me to send you away personally? Zhao Feng's words meant that Ji Dengshan was the next target. Although he didn't believe Zhao Feng had that ability, his heart felt uneasy for some reason. Sacred Lord Hundred Refined, kill him. Who tilde? Sacred Lord Hundred Refined moved in a unique manner and radiated the pressure of a Sacred Lord, destroying the walls around them. Rampant Imperial Finger. Ascension Kick. Sacred Lord Hundred Refined used two techniques at once, and countless leg phantoms made of sacred power flashed around Zhao Feng and restricted his ability to move. At the same time, a giant finger made of golden light shot forward with a rampant aura. Sacred Lightning Dominating Punch. Zhao Feng used the scarlet wings of lightning to release a surge of true yuan and propel himself upward. He thrust out his fists, and countless giant fists made of golden lightning clashed heavily against Sacred Lord Hundred Refine's attack. Using this force to push himself back, Zhao Feng flapped his scarlet wings of lightning and shot toward Ji Dengshan. How is that possible? Fear finally appeared on Ji Dengshan's face. The power that Zhao Feng's punch displayed was comparable to Sacred Lord Hundred Refine's technique, and Zhao Feng even had a profound flying technique. I can't let him get close to me. Purple Star Days. Ji Dengshan's eyes flashed with purple, and a large source of Soul Eye bloodline power shot toward Zhao Feng. As a peerless genius of the Ji family's previous generation, he obviously knew more than just illusions. If illusions were useless, then he would just use something else. Zhao Feng instantly sensed something. His thoughts and his control over his body were reduced. His senses toward the outside world dropped as well, and the scarlet wings of lightning occasionally dimmed, which was due to his true yuan not circulating properly. A mental energy technique that creates chaos in the soul and senses? Zhao Feng was surprised. This technique was similar to his Eye of Ice Soul, but the direction it took was different. The Eye of Ice Soul froze the opponent's soul and also affected the physical dimension to some degree, but it required a bloodline with the element of ice. The Purple Star Days created chaos in the opponent's soul, and it was a more profound and skillful attack focused entirely on the soul. After recultivating, Zhao Feng had placed greater importance on his sacred lightning body and the perfect Blood Devil Sun bloodline. The power of the Ice Water bloodline had started to drop mainly because its techniques weren't able to catch up to Zhao Feng's progress anymore. On the other hand, Ji Dengshan's Purple Star Days was rather suitable for Zhao Feng. Seeing Zhao Feng's speed falter for a moment, a smug expression appeared on Ji Dengshan's face. This brat is only slightly resilient against illusions, but he probably hasn't ever seen an illusion technique that can cause chaos amongst mental energy before, Ji Dengshan mocked. After Zhao Feng was hit by the Purple Star Gaze, Sacred Lord Hundred Refine would be able to finish him off easily. However, lightning suddenly flashed around Zhao Feng. Countless symbols of God Tribulation lightning in Zhao Feng's condensed purple soul blinked like meteorites falling through the night. Boom. 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 The faint purple soul power that had entered Zhao Feng's soul was utterly destroyed by Zhao Feng's immortal and undying God Tribulation lightning. At the same time, a golden glow appeared in Zhao Feng's left eye as he circulated it to the maximum. A dreamy dark golden color suddenly blinked in Zhao Feng's left eye. Soul Days. A strong surge of faint purple soul power was unleashed through Zhao Feng's eye intent, and it covered Ji Dengshan. Who? This is? Ji Dengshan's footsteps became unsteady as he looked at Zhao Feng in shock. This is my Purple Star Days. Ji Dengshan cried out as panic overtook his face. How is this possible? How do you know the secret technique of the Ji family? Ji Dengshan didn't know what to say. The true yuan circulating within his body had broken into chaos, so he wouldn't be able to use any I bloodline techniques for a while. Ji Dengshan immediately circulated his soul intent and I intent in an attempt to get rid of this technique. Not bad. Zhao Feng gave a faint smile. The purple star days was a type of illusion, so it wasn't very hard for Zhao Feng to replicate it. Its force would probably be even stronger if he used it with his soul I bloodline power. Hu tilde. A strong gust of wind appeared. Not good. Zhao Feng had been too focused on trying to replicate the technique. At this moment, the aura of Sacred Lord 100 Refine's fist had arrived. Even though the attack was far away, Zhao Feng's sacred lightning body could still feel a stinging pain, and his golden blue light started to dim. Sacred lightning protection. Zhao Feng circulated the power of wind lightning and formed a barrier of crackling lightning. Boom. The barrier shattered, and Zhao Feng was slammed into a wall. A surge of pain traveled throughout his body. Who? A black figure continued to charge over with overwhelming momentum, giving Zhao Feng no chance to rest. Humph. Zhao Feng's expression was cold as he circulated his wind lightning true yuan and flapped the scarlet wings of lightning. He became a streak of scarlet red lightning and clashed against Sacred Lord 100 Refined. If it wasn't for the fact that Ji Dengshan's mental energy technique had affected him and caused chaos with his true yuan, reducing the defense of his sacred lightning body dramatically, Sacred Lord 100 Refine wouldn't have been able to do so much damage. However, none of that mattered now because he had learned the Ji family's secret technique. Zhao Feng secretly circulated the water and wood of wind lightning in order to heal the injuries he just received. Rampant Imperial Finger. Blazing Sky Force Punch. Sky Silk Shadowless Step. Sacred Lord 100 Refine didn't stop at all, he simply continued his stream of attacks. The figures of a palm, a hand, and a leg surrounded Zhao Feng. The power was enough to shatter mountains and split rivers. Sacred Lightning Body. Sacred Lightning Protection. Zhao Feng circulated the sacred lightning body to the maximum, and a brilliant glow of golden lightning flashed around the surface of his body. The barrier of lightning surrounded his body and caused wind to howl and lightning to crackle. Zhao Feng didn't care what techniques Sacred Lord 100 Refine used, he would take them all head on. Boom. 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 The sacred lightning protection around Zhao Feng's body exploded and released a brilliant bolt of lightning that pushed aside all of the sacred power nearby. Who? Sacred Lord 100 Refined revealed a cold smile. He wouldn't be tricked again after witnessing Zhao Feng's defensive secret technique. Sky-shattering Divine Punch. Sacred Lord 100 Refined condensed all the intent into his right hand, and a pressure that could summon a storm gathered and shot out like a mountain being thrown through the air. After using this move, it was obvious that Sacred Lord 100 Refine's aura became weaker. Sacred Lightning Force Fist. Zhao Feng circulated the God Tribulation lightning symbols and the ancient lightning within his crystal core dimension. The most original and forceful divine lightning gathered on Zhao Feng's fists, and he punched out like an ocean of lightning. Boom. 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 The powerful wave of destruction sent both Zhao Feng and Sacred Lord 100 Refined flying into the walls. Ji Dengshan's face went pale white. He quickly retreated several hundred meters away from the explosion with a dazed expression. Close combat against Sacred Lord 100 Refined and not being at a disadvantage. Ji Dengshan's voice was trembling, he was in complete disbelief. Sacred Lord 100 Refined perhaps hadn't used his full strength in the first exchange, and Zhao Feng also used his flying techniques to negate some of Sacred Lord 100 Refined's attack. However, in the exchange just now, Sacred Lord 100 Refined put all of his power into a heaven-grade technique, and yet he was only on par with Zhao Feng. One had to know that Sacred Lord 100 Refined wasn't just any Sacred Lord, he was from the Cow family, one of the 8 big families. The Cow family in particular was a family that specialized in fighting, and they focused on physical damage. Their close combat skills were the best among all 8 families. This can't be true. He still has a terrifying soul-based I bloodline, and yet he has the ability to fight against a Sacred Lord in close combat? Ji Dengshan's entire body started to tremble. His eyes were dim, and they were filled with wariness and fear. He didn't dare to do anything because he might attract Zhao Feng's attention, which would cause his outcome to be the same as Ji Bei's. Boom. Boom. The two figures jumped out from their holes in the wall and clashed once again. Zhao Feng, I'll see how long you can last. Sacred Lord 100 Refined gritted his teeth and harumphed coldly as he used his battle techniques. He was looking at Zhao Feng as an expert of the same level now. Zhao Feng's physical defense was monstrous and even surpassed the Shi family. He wouldn't be able to win within a short amount of time. However, the difference between the Void God Realm and the Mystic Light Realm was just too big. The sacred body of Mystic Light Realms had a strong recovery ability, and Mystic Light's sacred power could affect the soul. Even if Zhao Feng was strong, he had to do more than just attack. He also needed to maintain his sacred lightning body and heal his injuries, which would use his true yuan up like water flowing down a river. Hee hee. An excited smile appeared on Zhao Feng's face. Zhao Feng felt extremely satisfied fighting against Sacred Lord 100 Refined, and the blood within the depths of his body was already starting to boil. Due to the pressure of this ancient dimension, Sacred Lord 100 Refined could only use 40% of his full battle power. Zhao Feng didn't use his Soul Eye bloodline techniques, he just fought against him in close combat. Boom. A glass-like flame suddenly appeared around Zhao Feng's body, and a terrifying scorching aura was unleashed. Zhao Feng seemed to become a blazing sun that gave off a bright flame. The temperature within the pathway started to rise. This is the Blood Devil Sun bloodline? Sacred Lord 100 Refined revealed a stunned expression. Why did Zhao Feng have the bloodline of the Tai family? Boom. Boom. Zhao Feng was like a flaming demonic sovereign as he flapped his wings of lightning and flew around. His attacks were extremely explosive. Zhao Feng thrust out his fist and released a wave of blood-colored flames that were surrounded by lightning, and it started to burn and erode everything. The power was on par with Sacred Lord 100 Refined's battle techniques. The instant they clashed, Sacred Lord 100 Refined felt that some blood essence and energy within his body was sucked away by Zhao Feng. Meanwhile, the color of Zhao Feng's face recovered a little bit. Even though only a bit of energy and blood essence of a mystic light sacred body was sucked away, the power contained within it was extremely strong, and it was a great help to those at the Void God Realm. This is the perfect Blood Devil Sun bloodline of the Tai family. Sacred Lord 100 Refined was stunned, and he pulled away from Zhao Feng. Being someone from one of the 8 big families just like the Tai family, he understood it very well.